So this week I'm off to the Munich Motor Show, otherwise known as the IAA Mobility. I thought I'd drive there, and what better car to do it in than an electric vehicle. I'm doing it in the Volkswagen ID.3 GTX, and in this video I'm going to take you along for the ride. The ID.3 actually has a pretty decent sized boot. You can see here I've got two normal sized suitcases fitted side by side. Perfect really. So I'm currently at the Eurotunnel terminal and I'm just charging the ID.3 on the Tesla chargers, which are here, quite handy to have. The journey I'm doing to my Airbnb, just about halfway between here and Munich, is just somewhere in France, and it's about 271 miles. I'm hoping we can do it on one charge, which definitely should do. The ID.3, despite being the GTX version, is actually quite efficient, and I've been using the a better route planner to get the route guidance to where I should charge. So we'll see how we get on. And of course, no road trip will be complete without a cheeky McDonald's. And in France, they actually have these very interesting reusable containers. So I've just driven from the McDonald's earlier, about an hour and a half, around 77 miles. Did have a bit of a situation at one of the toll booths actually. There was a car transporter on fire, so everyone's trying to rush through the toll booth. And unfortunately the toll booth for me wasn't actually working, so that was a bit of fun. Yeah, not sure what types of cars they were on fire, but it didn't look that good. It was pretty scary, to be honest. So I'm now charging at a Tesla supercharger just on the border with Belgium at a place called Valenciennes. I'll put it on screen. I probably butchered that pronunciation. And I've got the ABRP system set up. So it's telling me I just need to charge for 6 minutes here, and then I'll get to my Airbnb with 15%. But it's actually quite clever. I'm using the OBD port for the ID.3. And what it's actually doing is it's logging what the battery percentage is on the car. It's also logging the efficiency level that I've been getting in real time, and it will sync itself together. And all I need to do here is just tell the car, once I've finished charging for 6 minutes, I'm finished, unplug the charger, and then I'm on my way. I want to get to my Airbnb with 15% because I've actually got free charging, which is a nice thing I want to take advantage of. So yeah. So since I last did the little update there, we've actually travelled from that Tesla charger, which was in Valenciennes in France. I'm really sorry if I messed that up. And we've actually driven a good few hundred miles here. We've done 147 miles up through Belgium, through a place called Mons, and then down to where we are now in a place called Francheval. We're actually at our Airbnb now, and they have got some, as I said, some Tesla chargers that are free to use overnight. So I'll pop a link with the listing for this Airbnb in the video description, because it is such a lovely little place. Nice wooden pod place with a Starlink internet connection. Just really, really nice and upmarket, and it's really in the middle of the forest. So I'll put a nice little montage on the screen now. I was also quite surprised how quickly this ID.3 charged. I was only at that charger for 12 minutes and it reached about 170, 180 kilowatts roughly. So in 12 minutes we actually added 29 kilowatt hours. So if you think that's the size of well, very small electric cars, it just charged within 12 minutes. The price also here in France is surprisingly cheap. France has 10% VAT, and it was 26 cents per kilowatt hour. I put the exact conversion on screen, but it was only €7.58 for 29.1 kilowatt hours. Really, really cheap. In terms of how the ID.3 is doing, it is the GTX version, so you might expect it to be a little bit less efficient than the standard ones. I've been seeing 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour, and If you've ever driven in France, the French motorways aren't exactly slow. Sometimes, for a lot of the motorways, they're up to 130 kilometers per hour, and that's about 80 miles an hour. So that's not the most optimal speed for EVs, but I'm really, really quite impressed. Now back to this little OBD dongle. This costs £13 on Amazon. I'll put a link in the description for it. And it simply just plugs into the OBD2 port on the car, and it just provides data to the ABRP app. So the car's been charging overnight. It's pretty much fully charged. Actually, as soon as I unplugged it, it dropped to 99%. I'm in desperate need of coffee now, so I'm going to try and find a coffee shop. After about an hour or so of driving, we ended up in Luxembourg to grab some coffee, specifically in a small town called Baval, which is very, very close to the border with France. It's a very, very clean place, and it's definitely worth a visit if you're nearby. We then hit the road and made our way to Leonberg in Germany. So since I set off from the Airbnb, we've done a total of 5 hours and 7 minutes. The ID.3 has actually been really rather efficient. The motorways in Germany are just as fast as the French ones actually, so you can get up to 130 kilometers per hour, which is about 80 miles per hour I think. And we've done 401 kilometers in about 5 hours of driving, 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour, which is really good considering this is the ID.3 GTX, and we've still got 61 kilometers of range. I'll put the kilometers to miles conversions on the screen because I can't really do that in my head. We've stopped at this really cool Tesla supercharger with some solar panels on the roof. They've got a Lidl next door, they've got a McDonald's next door, but also they've got this very cool pizza vending machine, which I'll show you now. In the corner of the car park was this pizza vending machine, which is open 24/7. There's about 6 different flavours. They cost around €9.90 for a hot one and a bit less for a cold one, and it took about 4 to 5 minutes to get ready. Once the car had finished topping up at the Tesla supercharger and we had finished our pizza, we then hit the road for Munich. After that last Tesla charge in Leonberg in Germany, we then drove for around 2 hours and around 250 kilometers. I'll put the mileage conversion on screen. And we got to our hotel around 7 PM at night. Wasn't too bad. So in total, we drove from our house in the middle of the UK down to the Channel Tunnel, through France, into Belgium briefly, into Luxembourg, and then into Germany. It was a fairly enjoyable journey really, and we did that from Friday morning until Saturday evening. So in total we did around 831 miles. I've got the data in 2 different sections because of how I collect the information. The first section is coming from a better route planner, which is ABRP, what I was using for a lot of the route planning in the first section of our journey. So the first section from my house to the Airbnb in France was 693 kilometers or 430 miles, and we achieved 3.8 miles per kilowatt hour on that entire run. The second section from Franceville, our Airbnb in France, to Munich was 646 kilometers, and that data came from the car itself, and that's 401 miles. For that section, we achieved 3.7 miles per kilowatt hour. I've got 2 different bits of information there. So one's going through the UK when it was raining and quite early in the morning, down into France. So there's a bit of a stop there and some slower speed traffic. And then the second section was driving to Germany, a bit faster because we've got the Autobahn as well. So I'd say on average between 3.7 and 3.8 miles per kilowatt hour over around 830 miles is pretty good going really. It's a very enjoyable journey. Driving in Europe is definitely an experience, and it's nothing to be taken lightly. Obviously you get off the train and immediately you get pushed into public traffic, so definitely be prepared for if you are planning on driving in Europe in your own car, for example, coming from the UK. It takes a little while to get used to it, driving on the wrong side, all the different junctions and roundabouts. Obviously the roundabouts go around the wrong way. So as I said, definitely be prepared for it, but it is an experience. Some countries in Europe haven't got quite as good roads as the others, Later in the journey, this isn't covered in the video, but we drove to the Czech Republic, and their roads are a little bit different to, the motorways are a little bit different to what Germany has, for example. Germany's roads are very organised and quite easy to understand, and obviously the whole of Europe's a very big place. But overall, I was actually really impressed with how well the ID.3 did. It's very comfortable on these long journeys. It did very well in terms of efficiency. It charged really quickly. I think I saw 185 kilowatt at some point, so really quite impressive. And it's a big improvement over the first version of the ID.3 that came out in around 2020. That had its problems. The design was a little bit strange in places, the interior wasn't quite as plush, and even the base model of the ID.3 is definitely a big step up in terms of software and materials. There's a full review live now on the channel, looking at the ID.3, what it's like to drive, and the infotainment system, so definitely go and check that out. That'll be linked in the top right corner and the description down below. Thanks for watching. My name's Alex. Please subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again next time.